Hello, my dear friends. If you enjoy this story, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your support, and now let's begin.
I knew Daniel was married before he ever asked me to dinner. It was not some secret he revealed after several beautiful evenings together. There was a ring on his finger. His wife's name appeared on his phone. Sometimes he said we, and he was not talking about me. I saw all of it, and I still said yes. So do not expect a convenient version of this story in which one manipulative man deceived one lonely woman. He never pretended to be single. He never told me he and his wife slept in separate bedrooms. He never claimed the divorce papers were almost ready. In the beginning, he promised me nothing at all. I created the promise for him. My name is Laura Bennett. I was 39 when it began. I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and worked restoring old photographs at a small historical archive. My job was to return faces to people who had been dead for decades. I removed cracks, brightened faded eyes, reconstructed the shape of lips. Sometimes I felt as if I knew how to repair the past. In my own life, I could repair nothing. Before Daniel, I had been married for 12 years. Mark was a good man, but beside him I slowly became invisible. We did not betray each other. We did not scream. We did not throw plates. One day we simply realized that all we had left was politeness and a shared mortgage. After the divorce, I lived alone for 3 years. There were a few short relationships, several disappointing dates, men who talked only about themselves, men who wanted to move in immediately, men who disappeared after the second dinner. Daniel came to the archive because of a collection of family photographs. He was 48. He ran a small company that restored old theaters and public buildings. He brought in a box of photographs that had belonged to his grandfather. Most showed work crews, stages, facades, and people in heavy coats. Daniel wanted to prepare a digital exhibition for the reopening of a restored theater. He spoke quietly. He listened carefully. He did not stare at his phone every 2 minutes. When I explained why you could not simply increase the contrast and call it restoration, he smiled but did not interrupt. At the end of our first meeting, he asked, "Do you always defend dead photographers this fiercely?" "Only from living clients." He laughed. I noticed the wedding ring even then. A week later, he returned to the archive. Then again. There was no real need. Everything could have been handled by email. But he brought coffee. Mine had no sugar and only a little milk. He remembered. "I happened to be nearby," he said. That was a lie. His office was 40 minutes away. I knew it. And I still took the coffee. We began exchanging work messages. Then the messages became longer. He sent photographs of old cinemas he saw during business trips. I sent him pictures of strange handwritten notes on the backs of archival photographs. A month later, he asked if I wanted to have dinner. I looked at his hand. He did not hide the ring. "You're married." "Yes." "Then why are you asking me to dinner?" Daniel lowered his eyes. "Because I feel good when I'm with you." "Does your wife know you feel good when you're with me?" "No." That was the moment when everything could still have stopped. I thought about it many times afterward. As though another Laura existed somewhere, a woman who stood up, said goodbye, and never answered another message. But I remained seated. "What's her name?" I asked. "Alice." "How long have you been married?" 24 years. "Children?" "My son is 21. My daughter is finishing high school." I should have heard an entire family inside those words. A home. Photographs on the walls. A woman who had spent most of her adult life beside him. Instead, I heard only the exhaustion in his voice. "Are you unhappy?" I asked. He thought about it. "I don't know. We've become very distant." I knew that sentence. Thousands of unfaithful husbands had probably said it. Thousands of wives too. But that evening, I wanted to believe it was a rare truth. "I don't want to be someone's secret," I said. "I understand. And I don't want to wait for a man who will never change anything." "I'm not asking you to wait." It sounded honest. Later, I learned that honesty can sometimes be more convenient than a lie. He did not ask me to wait. I chose to wait. Our first kiss happened 2 weeks later. In his car. In the parking lot outside a closed theater. He kissed me slowly, as though giving me time to pull away. I did not. When I got home, I stood beneath the shower for a long time. Not because I felt dirty, because I felt alive. That was the most dangerous feeling of all. During the first few months, I called our affair temporary. That word helped me avoid looking at myself too closely. Temporary. Until he understood his feelings. Until his daughter finished school. Until his wife realized their marriage had already ended. Until I met a single man. Temporary relationships are not supposed to develop routines. Ours did quickly. On Tuesdays, he came to see me after work. On Thursdays, we had lunch in a small cafe in a neighboring town. Once a month, he found a way to stay overnight. I bought his favorite coffee. He left a shirt and a phone charger at my apartment. I knew when his daughter had exams. I knew his son was changing majors at college. I knew Alice hated driving at night. The more I knew about his family, the easier it became to pretend they existed only inside his stories. I had never seen Alice. Daniel did not show me photographs of her. He did not speak cruelly about her. I even used that as evidence of his decency. He never called his wife cold. He never accused her of failing to understand him. He said, "We're tired. We've been living more like roommates. We're both afraid of destroying what we spent so many years building." I heard only the parts that suited me. Their marriage is already empty. He stays because he feels responsible. His real feelings are with me. When we were together, it all felt convincing. He could listen to me talk about my work for hours. He remembered the dates of my exhibitions. Once, he came to me at 3 in the morning when my mother had an attack and was taken to hospital. He sat beside me in the emergency department, held my hand, then left before sunrise so Alice would not become suspicious. That was the first time I said, "I love you." He closed his eyes. I waited for an answer. "Laura." Only my name. I pulled my hand away. "Don't. I love you too. But..." He looked down the hospital corridor. "But this is not the time to make decisions. Now." Another convenient word. I did not ask when the right time would come. I was afraid of the answer. For months into the affair, he rented a small house by a lake for a weekend. Alice told him she was going to visit her sister. Daniel told his family he was inspecting a project in another state. For 2 days, we lived like an ordinary couple. We made breakfast, went for walks, argued about music. He fell asleep on the sofa with his head in my lap. I looked at him and imagined a house that might someday belong to us. Not that one. Another one. A small studio for me and a large table for his drawings. The fantasy became so detailed that it almost felt like a memory. On Sunday, before we left, I asked, "Have you ever seriously thought about leaving her?" Daniel did not pretend he misunderstood. "Yes. And? I don't know how to do it. People get divorced every day. We have 24 years of life together. I'm not asking you to erase them." He stood and walked to the window. "My daughter is applying to college. My mother is ill. Alice has never worked full-time. The house belongs to both of us." Every reason was reasonable. Together, they formed a wall. "So you're not leaving?" "I didn't say that. But you didn't say you were leaving either." He came closer. "Don't turn this weekend into an interrogation." I went quiet. Not because he was right. Because I was afraid of ruining our remaining hours. That became our system. He gave me love. I avoided questions that might destroy its shape. 6 months into the affair, Alice called while Daniel was at my apartment. His phone was on the table. Her photograph appeared on the screen. She was standing beside him on a beach, smiling. She had dark hair and a gentle, calm face. I was not younger than her. I was not more beautiful. She was not the kind of woman I could conveniently imagine as a boring wife. She looked alive. Daniel turned the phone face down. "Answer it," I said. "I'll call later." The phone rang again. "Answer." He went out onto the balcony. I could hear his voice. It changed, became domestic, patient. He asked whether she had picked up medicine for his mother. Promised to bring something home for dinner. Then he said, "Love you." Quietly, automatically. When he came back inside, I was standing by the window. "You tell her you love her. It's habit. Do you kiss her?" He winced. "Laura, do you sleep with her?" "Sometimes." I had no right to feel betrayed. But I did. You told me you were basically roommates. I said we had grown distant. That is not the same thing. He left early that evening. I deleted our messages. Blocked his number. I lasted 3 days. On the 4th, he was standing outside my apartment. I can't do this anymore, I said. I know. No, you don't. You go home to your wife. I go back to an empty apartment. He embraced me. I let him. Give me time, he said. And once again, I agreed. A year after the affair began, I finally understood that Daniel was not going to leave. It did not happen during an argument. Not after some discovery. Not when he canceled a trip with me. We were sitting in a restaurant. Just an ordinary dinner. He was telling me that his daughter had been accepted to a university in North Carolina. Alice wanted to travel with her and help her settle in. Daniel complained about the expenses, the drive, and the amount of luggage. He said we so naturally that for the first time, I heard the word differently. I did not hear a place I was supposed to take someday. I heard a system he had no intention of leaving. Will anything change after she moves? I asked. He fell silent. What exactly? You said you didn't want to break up the family before graduation. She graduated. Now she's leaving for college. Laura, this doesn't happen according to a calendar. Then how does it happen? I have to talk to Alice. When? Not now. Why? She's going through a difficult period. I laughed quietly. She will always be going through some kind of period. Your son has problems. Your daughter has school. Your mother is ill. You have a project. Then it will be Christmas. Then the anniversary of her father's death. Then a kitchen renovation. Daniel looked at me heavily. You've become cruel. No. I've simply started counting. Counting what? Months. Promises. Reasons. He put money on the table. I'm not discussing this in that tone. Because that tone requires an answer. We went outside. It was hot. I walked quickly toward my car so he would not see me crying. He caught up with me. I love you. I turned. Then leave. He said nothing. That was enough. I drove home alone. That night, I did not imagine our future. For the first time, I reviewed our past. Every canceled meeting. Every holiday I had spent alone. Every phone call that changed his voice. Every time I allowed the words "not yet" to sound like a plan. In the morning, I sent him a message. It's over. He did not reply immediately. An hour later. Let's talk. I refused. He called. I did not answer. 2 days later, he came to the archive. I saw him through the glass door. He looked exhausted. I wanted to go outside. To embrace him. To tell him I forgave everything. Instead, I asked security to tell him I was busy. I lasted 2 weeks. Then my mother died. It was not sudden. Her health had been declining for years. But death still feels unexpected even when doctors warn you. I sat on the floor of her bedroom surrounded by boxes of clothes. My sister had gone to collect documents. The house was silent. I called Daniel. He answered on the first ring. Laura. I could not speak. He understood. He arrived an hour later. That day, I did not think about Alice. I did not think about morality. I needed the person beside whom I could cry. Daniel stayed until morning. He helped organize the funeral. Spoke with the funeral home. Brought food. Found an old photograph of my mother and repaired a frame she had broken years earlier. I let him back into my life. At the funeral, he stood far away. No one knew who he was. My sister asked, "Is that a colleague?" Yes. The lie came easily. After the funeral, we returned to my apartment. I cannot be a secret again, I said. You won't be. What changed? He sat opposite me. I'm going to talk to Alice. When? This week. I looked at him. I wanted to believe him. Will you tell her about me? He looked away. Not immediately. Why? Because it will destroy her. And lying won't? I have to do this properly. I should have understood. If a man had postponed a decision for a year, properly meant one more delay. But I had just buried my mother. I was weak. Frightened. I agreed to wait another week. Then another. At the end of the month, Daniel said he had spoken to Alice. And? I told her we've become distant, that we need some space. Did you leave the house? No. Does she know about me? No. Then what exactly changed? He ran a frustrated hand through his hair. You don't understand how complicated this is. I understand. You want to keep both lives. He stood. That's unfair. What was unfair was what I was doing to Alice. What I'm saying about you is simply true. We argued. He left. A few days later, he returned. That was how the following months went. Breakup. Fear. Return. Brief happiness. More promises. I knew he would not leave. But by then, I could not leave either. People love to ask why the other woman does not simply walk away, as though seeing the truth is enough to make feelings disappear. I saw the truth. It stood in front of me every day. I knew Daniel had dinner with his wife on Fridays. I knew they visited his mother together. I knew he would spend Christmas opening gifts in his own home. I knew I did not exist in the family photographs. But knowledge is not the same thing as freedom. Sometimes it only makes dependence more humiliating. I tried dating other men. One taught music. Another was a veterinarian. They were single. They texted me in the morning. Made weekend plans. Did not hide their phones. Their honesty felt dull to me. Beside them, I did not feel the tension I had mistaken for depth. I compared every movement to Daniel. Every voice. Every touch. Then I ended those dates and returned to the man who could give me only fragments of his time. Over time, I became more demanding. Not because I had suddenly found self-respect. Because hunger grows when it is fed crumbs. Spend my birthday with me, I said 1 year. I can't. Why? Alice has a medical appointment. In the morning? She'll be anxious afterward. And me? He looked tired. Don't turn everything into a competition. But everything had already become one. Alice simply did not know she was competing. On my 41st birthday, Daniel arrived at 7 in the morning. He brought flowers and a bracelet. We drank coffee in the kitchen. At 9, he left. I stared at the gift and hated myself for being happy. A few months later, I saw Alice in person for the first time. The archive was holding a charity evening. Daniel's company was one of the sponsors. He warned me that he would attend with his wife. I said I would not be there. Then I went anyway. I wanted to see the woman for whom he claimed to be sacrificing our future. Alice was 4 years older than me. She wore a simple blue dress. She spoke calmly with people. She laughed. She touched his elbow when she wanted his attention. Daniel looked natural beside her. Not miserable. Not trapped. Simply like a husband. He noticed me across the room. For 1 second, his expression changed. Then it became calm again. Alice came over to my table. Are you Laura? I froze. Yes. Daniel has told me a lot about your work with the theater photographs. You have an amazing talent. She extended her hand. I shook it. Thank you. He said the exhibition would never have worked without you. I looked at him. He stood several steps away. Daniel exaggerates. He rarely praises people. So you must actually be very good. She smiled. I waited for jealousy. Suspicion. Some sign that she could sense the lie. But Alice was sincere. That destroyed the last convenient fantasy. She was not a cold wife who had spent years tormenting a wonderful man. She was a woman I could smile at while knowing I was sleeping with her husband. After the event, I said to Daniel, "She's a good person." He remained silent. You told me you were strangers. We've become strangers as a couple. You don't look like strangers. What exactly do you want me to say? The truth. I love her. The words were quiet. I felt as though I had been hit. And me? Yes. You can't love 2 women in the same way. Not in the same way. Then who do you love more? He looked away. I'm not answering that. Because the answer isn't me. He left. I smashed the bracelet he had given me for my birthday. The next day, I picked the pieces off the floor and cried. Not because of the jewelry. Because of myself. I understood that I had become the kind of person I once judged. A woman who knew everything and continued anyway. Alice discovered me by accident. Not through a message. Not through a photograph. Not because Daniel finally decided to be honest. She found a hotel bill. Daniel and I had spent 2 days in Baltimore. He told her he was attending a construction conference. He had actually registered. But he stayed with me. The bill was sent to their shared email account by mistake. Alice called while Daniel was at my apartment. I saw his face change. What happened? He raised one hand, listened, then said, "I'm coming home." She knows? He did not answer. Daniel. She found the bill. My hands began to shake. What are you going to tell her? The truth. All of it. Laura, this is not the time. Even then, he said it. He left. I waited all night for him to call. In the morning, I received a message. She knows. I need to be with my family. Family. One word defined my place. I was not family. I was the reason his family was now in pain. Daniel did not answer me for 3 days. On the 4th day, Alice called. I recognized her voice immediately. Is this Laura? I wanted to hang up. Yes. I want to meet you. I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't think you have the right to decide what is good for me. Her words reminded me of what I had once said to Daniel. We met in a quiet cafe. Alice arrived first. An untouched cup of tea sat in front of her. She looked tired. Not destroyed. Controlled. I sat opposite her. Thank you for coming. I didn't come for you. I understand. No. You don't understand anything. She placed a photograph on the table. Daniel, Alice, and their 2 children. It had been taken several years earlier. How long has this been going on? Almost 2 years. She closed her eyes. I saw the pain cross her face. He told me 1 year. He lied. Of course. Alice looked at me. You knew he was married? Yes. You knew about me? Yes. The children? Yes. Every answer made me smaller. Then why? I could have said I loved him, that I was lonely, that he gave me hope. But none of those reasons answered her question. Because I wanted to believe your marriage was already over. And you didn't bother checking. No. Did you ever think about me? Yes. And you continued anyway? Yes. She turned toward the window. I could not ask her forgiveness. Sometimes asking for forgiveness is another form of selfishness. It asks the person you hurt to relieve your guilt. Was he really planning to leave me? Alice asked. I answered honestly. He said he was. But now I don't think it was true. Do you want him to leave now? I remained silent for a long time. I don't know. She gave a bitter laugh. Incredible. You helped destroy my marriage for 2 years, and now you don't know whether you even want it to end. It was cruel. And fair. Alice stood. He's staying at my sister's house. I asked him to leave. I'm sorry. Don't say that. If you were sorry, you would have stopped sooner. She left. I stayed there for a long time. An hour later, Daniel arrived. Apparently, she had told him where I was. Why did you meet her? Because she had the right. You told her how long it had been going on? Yes. He struck the table with his palm. People turned to look. She thought it had been 1 year. You lied to her even after she discovered us. I was trying to reduce the pain. No. You were trying to reduce the consequences for yourself. He sat opposite me. Alice wants a divorce. I felt the thing I had been waiting for almost 2 years to hear. Instead of joy, I felt fear. What happens now? He asked. I don't know. We can finally be together. The words that once sounded like a dream now sounded like a sentence. You want to move in with me? Not today. But yes. And your children? They won't speak to me. Your mother. She thinks I destroyed the family. And you. Daniel looked at me. I lost everything for us. That was not true. He lost everything because he lied. But there was already an accusation inside his voice, as though I now owed it to him to make his losses worthwhile. Daniel moved in with me a month later. The first few days felt like a wish finally coming true. He woke up beside me, left his shoes by the door, made coffee. We could go to restaurants in our own city. We did not look over our shoulders. We did not hide. But freedom did not make us happier. It only removed the scenery we had used to hide the truth. Daniel was irritable. He constantly checked his phone, waiting for messages from his children. His son answered once and asked him to stop calling. His daughter wrote that she did not want him at a university event. Alice filed for divorce. The lawyers discussed the house, retirement accounts, and property. Daniel talked about money almost every evening. She wants half the business. It's marital property. Are you on her side now? I'm not on anyone's side. You spent years telling me you wanted me to leave. I wanted you to make an honest choice. I did. No. You were caught. He fell silent. That was how our real arguments began. Without short meetings. Without fear of wasting one rare evening. Without beautiful hotel rooms. I saw the man who had avoided decisions for years. He saw the woman who had loved not only him, but also the impossibility of fully having him. Our passion had lived inside waiting. Inside secrecy. Inside the promise of a future. When the future finally arrived, we discovered that we barely knew each other. He hated the silence I needed after work. I could not stand the television constantly playing. He wanted to see friends. I was afraid of the way they looked at me. Some had known Alice for years. It felt as though every conversation stopped when I entered a room. One day, we saw his daughter at a store. She noticed us. Her face went pale. Daniel walked toward her. She stepped back. Don't. Megan, please. You brought her here? I stood beside the shopping cart, unable to move. Megan looked at me. You stood beside my mother at that exhibition. Yes. You smiled at her. Yes. There was more disgust in her eyes than I could bear. She left. Daniel did not speak to me until evening. Then he said, You didn't have to come with me. To the grocery store? You know what I mean. You're blaming me because your daughter saw us? I'm not blaming anyone. But he was. In every word. In every heavy look. Another 3 months passed. The divorce continued. Daniel slept on the sofa more often. One night I asked, Do you regret it? He took a long time to answer. Sometimes. What do you regret? The way everything happened. Not the affair? I don't know. I laughed. It was our cursed phrase. I don't know. The words people use when they know the answer but are afraid to say it. Do you love Alice? He looked at me. Yes. Once, that answer would have destroyed me. Now it only confirmed something I had understood for a long time. And me? Yes. But you're unhappy with me. I lost my children. My house. Part of my company. And you think I'm supposed to make that price worthwhile? He stood. That's unfair. No. What we did to her was unfair. A week later, I asked him to leave. He stared at me as though I had betrayed him. You wanted this for 2 years. I wanted the fantasy. So everything was for nothing? No. It was real. And it was still wrong. Do you love me? Yes. Then why? I finally gave him the answer I should have given at the very beginning. Because love is not enough when being with you turns me into someone I do not want to be. He packed his things. Moved into a hotel. Later, he rented an apartment. We did not speak for almost a year. I learned that the divorce was final. Alice kept the house. The children gradually began speaking to Daniel again, but their relationship was different. I do not know whether she forgave him. She certainly did not forgive me. And she did not owe me forgiveness. People sometimes ask whether I forgave myself. No. Forgiveness sounds too final. I learned to live with responsibility. That is not the same thing as punishing yourself forever. But it is also not an attempt to rename a mistake as fate. I knew he was married. I knew about his wife. His children. I knew he was not leaving. I continued not because I had been deceived. I continued because every meeting gave me a few hours of happiness and another woman was paying the price for them. I did not see her tears. So I could pretend there was no cost. There was. The bill simply arrived later. A year and a half after Daniel and I separated, he sent me a message. I think about you often. I stared at it for several minutes. Then replied, I think about you too. But that is not a reason to begin again. He wrote, We could do everything differently this time. I did not answer. Because some stories cannot be repaired by writing a new version. You can only stop repeating the old one. I am 43 now. I still restore photographs. I return faces. Repair cracks. But now I know that not every crack should be hidden. Sometimes the damage needs to remain visible. Not as punishment. As truth. This is my confession. Without excuses. I loved a married man. He loved me. Perhaps the feeling itself was real. but real feelings can still cause real harm. And love does not become right simply because it is powerful. Laura was not an innocent victim. Daniel was not a monster who kept her trapped for years through one enormous lie. They both saw enough truth to stop. But each time, they chose one more meeting, one more promise, and one more delay. Their story shows that a person can love sincerely and still behave cruelly. Love may explain some choices. It does not erase responsibility for their consequences. Who do you think carries more responsibility in this story? And is it possible to build a happy relationship on the pain of someone who never even knew they were part of the choice?